The New Orleans Pelicans had a great end to the 2021-22 season and pushed the Suns to a tough 6-game series in the first round. And that was all without their best player, Zion Williamson. So with Zion returning and a full season of CJ McCollum ahead, the excitement around the Pelicans team is sky high. So let's talk about it. Let's start with the stars of this Pelicans roster, specifically with Brandon Ingram. The Pelicans without Brandon Ingram last season were 7-20. When Brandon Ingram was in the lineup, 29-26. There was no denying the fact that Brandon Ingram is an absurdly impactful player for this roster and is extremely influential to the Pelicans' success. BI continues to be one of the best scoring wings in the West, but he has become much more than just a scorer. Although there can be some inconsistencies, Ingram has taken significant strides forward on the defensive end, to the point where he is a good defender when he is committed, something that should be easier for him to commit to with Zion and CJ around him to remove some of his offensive load. And with the fact that the Pelicans, for the first time since BI has been traded there, should be firmly amongst the playoff picture, not just a fringe team that gets bounced easily in the first round, allowing more motivation and more energy for BI to be able to further commit to the defensive end. Ingram has also made significant improvements in his playmaking. I mean, this guy just averaged over 5.5 assists a game last season, and that wasn't by mistake. Now, that isn't to say that BI is an elite playmaker, because he isn't, but he is a very good playmaker and has grown in his ability to find open teammates and how to leverage his scoring gravity to the benefit of the rest of the offense. But that's just one of 3 stars, and the only star who played for the majority of last season. Yet the Pelicans were still a successful and competitive playoff team. So that brings us to CJ McCollum, the mid-season acquisition at the deadline. And man, does he look a lot better as a point guard. He's been good in Portland, but with a backcourt to himself, CJ with the Pelicans averaged his highest points totals, assist totals of his career ever, and the highest field goal efficiency of any season throughout his career. For the first time in his NBA career, CJ McCollum is away from the shadow of Damian Lillard and finally gets to be a point guard, the lead guard, and in this team, the only guard in the backcourt. And it looks to be bringing the best out of CJ and bringing the best to this Pelicans roster, specifically a Pelicans roster who needed a point guard with Kyrie Lewis out with injury and Devontae Graham really struggling to be the Lonzo Ball replacement. CJ is a player with a ton of playoff experience who has had very good performances in the playoffs. He knows how to get buckets and has shown it through his over 60 playoff games throughout his NBA career. More importantly for this Pelicans roster is his playmaking, his ability to run the offense and to make life much easier for Zion and BI on offense. No longer do Brandon Ingram and Zion have to create all of their own offense, which they would have to have been doing primarily this season if CJ had not been acquired. CJ requires defensive attention thanks to his great scoring and will set up Zion and Ingram in great scoring opportunities, and this addition to the Pels offense could be enough to push them all the way to being a top 5 or even a top 3 offense in the NBA. But we haven't even discussed the best player on the Pelicans, who again did not play at all throughout the 2021-22 season, and that's Zion Williamson. The man who took the league by storm in his one full NBA season. The man who averaged over 27 points per game on over 60% from the field. Made the All-Star team, proving even at the NBA level, he is an absolute freak of nature and can absolutely dominate the paint on offense. Zion now enters year 4 of his NBA career, alongside a much better team than the one he last played for, and one that fits his play style much better. Remember, when Zion last played basketball, the Pelicans still had Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams. There was no Jonas Valanciunas, no CJ McCollum, no Herb Jones, no Trey Murphy, or no Jose Alvarado, not to mention the improvements from a playmaking standpoint from Brandon Ingram over the last year. Long story short, there was a lot less playmaking on this Pelicans team when Zion last played, and there was significantly less spacing, comfortably in the bottom half of the league for lineup spacing. And for a player like Zion who gets the vast majority of his offense in the paint, having spacing is only going to lead for more success for Zion. And he is certainly in a situation now where he is surrounded by much better spacing and much better talent than the 2020-21 roster did. How high is the ceiling for Zion? Who knows? It's impossible to put a cap on his impact as a player. But one thing is for sure, if Zion can stay healthy, which is a big if, but if he can, the trio of BI, CJ, and Zion is going to cause problems next season and could end up being one of the best three-man cores in the league. But this team isn't going to have success next season solely because of their stars. They're also supplemented with very good role players and complementary pieces that are very impactful to winning and fit in well with this roster. Let's start with one of the best players from the 2021 draft class, Herb Jones. Herb Jones is one of the best rookie wing defenders in NBA history, undoubtedly. This man is absolute clamps. He is long, strong, and quick, and is already one of the best wing defenders in the NBA after his rookie season. Herb still has room for improvement on the offensive end, specifically if he can become a bit more efficient from three-point range, but nearly 34% in a rookie season can lead one to believe that he can improve to 37-38% over the next few seasons as he becomes one of the best 3-and-D, if not the best 3-and-D wing in the NBA. The Pelicans' defense improved significantly last season, and a big part of that has been and will continue to be Herb Jones. The other man filling out the starting lineup will be Jonas Valanciunas, and although he does have his concerns defensively, there is no doubt JV is a very good rebounder, is one of the best post scorers in the NBA, and has significantly improved his three-point shooting throughout his time in the league, to the point where you can now run some offense with JV in the high post, around the top of the key, or even from the three-point line while Zion sits in the paint. And you can run this offense with some success thanks to the development of JV's shooting. Having JV as a fourth option to go to offensively is honestly disgusting, and he offers something that is different that most teams don't have to deal with defensively on a night-to-night basis. With his size, physicality, and ability to finish in the paint, whether it be from a back-to-basket or face-up, JV is a very nice piece to have at the 5, and is certainly an improvement for this roster over Steven Adams. But it doesn't stop there. The Pelicans bench, despite being partly traded away at last year's trade deadline, is still very good and very impactful with a lot of depth. Jackson Hayes was last year's starting power forward to end the season. Finally found some success in that starting lineup, and now he's going to be back on the bench. After his first 2 seasons in the NBA, there was some doubts about Hayes' future in the league and how productive he would truly be, but in the new year, as soon as 2022 hit, Hayes raised his game to another level, averaged well over 10 points per game for the remainder of the season, and was a valuable presence in the paint defensively with great length and verticality, showing some of that upside that many saw in him as a prospect when he entered the league. Moving him back to the bench, assuming he can be comfortable in his new role, bodes well for the depth on this roster and the amount of size that they can have off of the bench. Jose Alvarado was another surprise, but another very impactful rookie last season for the Pelicans, and has made himself one of my favorite players of this very strong 2021 draft class. Alvarado competes, he hustles, and gives you 100% effort every second that he is on the court. He may be small, but he is one of the most active, strong, annoying, and in turn productive guard defenders in the league. There is still some improvements to be made on offense, specifically in his three-point shooting, although that did improve a bit over the course of the season and was especially efficient throughout the playoffs. But one thing is for sure, when Alvarado's on the court, you know you're going to get 100% effort from him, and from a depth player, you can't really be too mad at that. Trey Murphy, another rookie from the 2021-22 season. Yeah, the Pelicans did pretty good at finding talent in last year's draft class. Trey Murphy was expected to come in and be the NBA-ready guy who would be a good 3-and-D wing immediately. And although Herb Jones took more of that role last season, and Murphy didn't get the opportunity many expected, he was still a very good three-point shooter when he did play, was very impactful in the play-in tournament on both ends of the floor, and the same can be said for the playoffs, where he was a solid defender on the wing, shot over 47% from 3, and played a bigger role than he did throughout the regular season, proving how valuable of an asset he is moving forward. Expect Trey Murphy to be a very valuable 3-and-D wing for the Pels off the bench this upcoming season. Finally, a veteran. Sometimes a forgotten man on this roster when you consider their stars and young talent who get a bit more of the limelight, But Larry Nash Jr. is going to be a very key part of this rotation, is an underrated return at the deadline, and is the perfect glue guy to have on your bench unit. He does a bit of everything. He can shoot the three, he can provide a little bit of spacing, can finish inside and attack the rim well, is a solid passer for his position, and is a very good defender, not to mention the fact that he is very well respected throughout the NBA and will be a great presence in the locker room for a very young team. And although the previous 9 players are the most likely 9-man rotation, in my opinion at least, and the most likely key contributors to next year's rotation, there is still more contributing members to this roster that could become a part of the rotation, or at the very least will play some level of role during the regular season. Willie Hernangomez continues to be a solid big man off the bench while being very well liked by Pelicans fans. Dyson Daniels is this year's rookie brought in to impact the roster and could provide some valuable minutes at point guard off the bench with some level of length and creation. Kyrie Lewis Jr. has struggled with playing time and injury throughout his young NBA career, but is a former lottery pick who could still have some upside. And Devontae Graham could provide some guard minutes as well, given he was brought in initially to be the Lonzo Ball replacement. But he did really struggle to score the ball last year with any level of efficiency, and his spot in the rotation might be gone. It's clear there is plenty of talent on this team, from stars to role players, and a lot of this roster is not yet in their prime, from Zion and Brandon Ingram to Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels, amongst others. The Pelicans have one of the best futures in the NBA, but as early as this upcoming season, the Pelicans can be a threat in the Western Conference, especially if Zion can stay healthy. They might not quite be title contenders yet, but this could and should be a 50-win team that has the potential to go deep in the playoffs, has the potential to be a top 4 seed in the West next season, as they can compete with nearly any team in the NBA. But one thing is for sure, the Pelicans are going to be a very fun team to watch and must be respected in the Western Conference this season.